All right, guys, welcome back. Just thought of this idea here, and kind of wanted to get your guys' feedback. One of the things that we've talked about, since entering the hobby, right? I've only been in it for 10 weeks, but spent a good amount of time researching, like a lot of people, right? Regardless of what it is you're doing, you're starting up a new saltwater tank, or maybe taking on a new business venture or buying a new car. Some of us experience that old cliche saying, analysis paralysis, right? And eventually, in order to make anything happen, you have to take some actionable steps, right? And so in this case, did research for years and finally crossed that bridge, right? And so this video is aimed at talking about like the pros of having a saltwater tank, right? Like, so the compelling reasons as to why you want to get into this hobby, right? And the benefits that we've all experienced, those of us that are in it. So for anyone that's new, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, because you'll find videos within this channel that are going to help you as you're setting up your new, all-in-one aquarium, possibly like a Fluval 13.5 or another similar all-in-one aquarium, right? If this is kind of your first saltwater tank, I think you'll be in a position where you're going to be learning from, the things that I've done right and the things that I've done wrong, but also from those of us in the community that are sharing our knowledge. So thanks to all of our subscribers, and especially everyone that's commenting and sharing their knowledge. But that said, these are compelling reasons that I found to get a saltwater aquarium, right? The biggest, one of the main, I shouldn't say the biggest, right? Like a really, really good reason as to why I wanted to get into it was how visually and aesthetically appealing it is to have a saltwater tank. When you don't have one, right, where do you go? You either see these at a saltwater aquarium shop, or you're going to an actual aquarium, like a city aquarium, to see this type of fish, coral, and livestock. So it's pretty amazing and awesome to be able to have that right in your very own living room or your game room or your garage, wherever it is you decide to keep it. And a big part of it, right, guys, like, check this out. Like, if you're new, it's not that hard to set up. I've been in this 10 weeks, and you can have coral that glow in the dark, right? You can have hermit crabs. You can have different type of tropical fish like your Watchman goby. You can have torches. You can have mushrooms, candy cane coral, hammer corals. You name it, guys. It hasn't been that much work. You can do it too. If you're thinking about it, you can absolutely do it. You get to experience this, and maybe you've been in the freshwater game for a long time and you have some beautiful aquascape tanks. You can translate that knowledge just as I did, and begin your saltwater journey, right? The biggest difference is the temperature of the water. I'm sure your tanks are probably heated anyway. And two is mixing your salt, right? And if you don't want to mix your water, you can just buy it. If that's an option, go for it. It at least gets you in the hobby. You can try it out. You can convert any tank or most tanks to a saltwater aquarium. Our more experienced folks comment if you don't believe that's true, or if you've done it before. If you've taken a freshwater tank and converted to saltwater, let us know. I think the biggest difference is the lighting, right? But with these all-in-ones, they basically take it out of the box and everything's there. You got your pump in the back chamber, comes with your media, comes with the lighting. Everything's made nice and easy. So again, being able to have that diversity in the ecosystem, being able to have those vibrant colors, it's pretty amazing, the fact that you can do that. So the other thing too, it can serve as a decorative piece, right? Like, you can get like, a simple stand. In my case, I got mine from Amazon, and for $140, like, I have it in my living room. It works. It's nice to look at. I can be watching TV and look over, or have the TV off. I find myself looking at the aquarium more often than not. And if you look in there, you can kind of see the pistol shrimp peeking out. You can see his little antenna in there, but maybe he'll be brave and go out. So, I mean, that's the nice thing, you have like endless opportunities to watch your livestock, right? And I'm, as I said, I've had the clowns since they were tiny, like weeks 3 and 4, and they're starting to grow, and I know that they'll get bigger. That said, guys, how big do they get, right? That's why I haven't overstocked, right? I'd love to have more, see all these videos with amazing numbers of clownfish. I'd love to have more in the tank, but I just know that as they grow, that's not ideal. So, the other cool thing too, right? If you're into aquascaping, right? And I'm not a huge aquascape guy. I don't have too much knowledge, but my son and I built this rock formation, right? We bought the Carib Life Sea rocks, these purple rocks here, and then these guys are actual live rocks from the store, but we were able to kind of create our own, nature-esque aquascape, right? Which kind of gives it like that ocean feeling, which is what I was going for. So the other thing I've found too is the hobby, not only do you learn a lot in the hobby, because in order to introduce these new species, you're either doing research or you're talking to folks in the community, which is a huge part of the reason why I made this channel, just to be able to connect with folks and also teach folks that are new, right? Like, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I think that I'm capable of helping people, or at least being able to connect people. So again, thanks to everyone that's subscribed and continues to share their knowledge. But I found like a big benefit is like there's indirect like relaxation and stress. Like here I am like drinking a tea, looking at this tank, making a video. I'm really enjoying making content, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the content that you're seeing. And if you think there's any improvements that I can make that make things more interesting, please share that in the comments or write me directly. That's totally cool. Totally open to feedback. So the other thing too is I just find like I have a sense of mental clarity, right? Just having it in that main space in the house. When I'm feeling tired, I just kind of like sit back, do a little feed. I'm able to relax, right? And then when I have to do that focus work, I can go sit back down and do that focus work, right? And, in terms like of environmental like appeal, right? Like you can hear, like if you're actually quiet, you can hear the water movement, right? Sometimes I'll hear the pistol shrimp like clicking at shells. So, and the other thing too, guys, when you turn off these lights in the evening, even if you have like a television on, and mine's like literally adjacent to my television, which probably isn't the best placement, it's still so nice to look at the coral and the zoas. And it's just such a beautiful aesthetic look, right? I think, the other thing, as I mentioned, like not only do you get to connect with people in the community when you go to these local fish stores, like you'll learn from folks that are there. Sometimes they're super helpful. Sometimes, they don't, depending on the employee, they don't necessarily want to help you too much. They just expect you to know. But some people are actually genuinely interested in helping you and, helping you avoid mistakes, or they make, good recommendations. But all in all, like, guys, you get to have like a mini ocean in your home. Like, how cool is that? So you have a piece of marine biology, but also too, the piece that I've learned is, to be honest, when I bought this, I didn't even realize I needed tests to test the water parameters. Like in the freshwater game, it is so easy. You just literally dechlorinate the water, throw your fish in, and you're good. But because you have more sophisticated organisms, and you're trying to replicate an ocean, you have to make sure that you're creating a balanced ecosystem, right? So that's pretty cool. I mean, my son's 8 years old and he's learning around how to do this, how to balance things, how to mix salt water, what that looks like. And I think also the great thing about doing it with him is it's fostered a sense of responsibility, right? Obviously, you have to have a maintenance schedule. You have to change the water. You have to stick to these things. You have to feed the animals and your livestock regularly. You have to do some upkeep, right? I mean, it shouldn't feel like a chore, guys. You should actually want to do it. If you're in a position where you're like, I'm not going to want to do these things, then the tank's probably not going to look too healthy if you leave it completely unattended. Now, I understand that as tanks become more mature, they can require less maintenance. Is there anyone out there that has a tank let's say over a year old, that requires minimal water changes. I've seen videos on that where, like, maybe the tank is, a 30 or 65 gallon tank, but it actually needs very little maintenance because the ecosystem is so balanced. I'd love to be in a position where I get to that stage, and maybe one day, if I'm able to keep up with the hobby and I don't suffer a tank crash, and we can get there. And that's kind of where I want to be, right? I'm trying to tell my boy, let's not rush things. Let's take things slow. I say that, but internally it's so hard, because when you go to these stores and you see all these beautiful organisms, you're like, wow, oh man, that Duncan could actually, now that, a subscriber had mentioned a Duncan, the Duncan would maybe look fitting here, or maybe I can actually take that next step and, attach a coral to my rockscape, right? So there's different things, and, it's all rewarding, right? It's challenging, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. When you do have an issue with the tank, you have to overcome that challenge, right? So I think it teaches a lot of resilience. And so not everything is going to go perfect, right? And even with my freshwater setup, when my son was really little, I would say to him, well, you have to be able to work through those challenges. And when something doesn't work out, we need to keep going, right? And life is a lot like that. So I think there's some beneficial lessons that we can all apply from, even maintaining an aquarium, and it translates to real life, right? It teaches you real responsibilities. And I think that's great for everyone, not just your children, but yourself, right? You're just sticking to a routine and really learning to enjoy a process, right? So again, there's a lot of reward in creating that healthy environment and, having that thriving ecosystem. Like, the other big thing I think that sometimes we forget is that, some fish are farmed, some are from the wild, right? The ones from the wild end up costing more money, but it's pretty remarkable that you're able to bring in nature indoors. Like, where do these fish come from? Like, the yellow Watchman goby is from the Indian Ocean. Whether he was, bred in captivity is a different story. The majority of clownfish are bred in captivity, but you can get wild fish and inhabitants. So, I mean, there's some pretty expensive ones, and they look amazing. As I said, one day I'd like to get a blenny, and then further to that, like the I think it's called the dragonette, like those very colorful dragon fish, beautiful fish, but again, they're $200. And initially, when I set up the tank, I wanted to get like almost like a black and white clown, but I was afraid, because they cost like $70 to $100 or $125, $150. But I was afraid that, again, being a novice, I wouldn't be able to do that. So the next clownfish I get, because they have been a hardy species, I'll invest in that. And thankfully, my the livestock, as I said, I think it's important to have a look and make sure the place, the fish store you're buying from, has a good reputation, right? And so in my case, they're very trustworthy. They've been around, a long time, 20 plus years. Most folks in the community go to them. We do have different options. And when you go to these different stores, you notice the difference. And as I said, I'm going to take you guys to one other local store that's been around for 30 plus years. And we can see, like, what's the difference in the quality. I mean, if you scroll up through our playlist, you'll see that I visited 2 other local aquarium stores. The bigger one is the one that's been around a while, and then the smaller one has only been around 2 years, and they sold mostly coral. So again, like, bringing nature indoors, again, a beautiful thing to be able to look at daily and have that connection, right? Like, where outside of an aquarium in your city, where else are you going to get it? And, for most people, like, imagine this was a huge tank, not just a 13.5 gallon. And one of our subscribers made that point. They had said, they had multiple tanks, 6 tanks in the home. And, each tank brings a different level of uniqueness, right? Like, a 65 gallon tank is going to be different than a nano tank, but you can still establish a beautiful looking aquascape and ecosystem within any size tank. Like, I've even seen on Facebook micro tanks, or a company that does micro tanks that are tiny. They're probably like, 1-gallon tanks, and then those are really only suitable for inverts or very, very tiny fish. I mean, what's the smallest tank size you guys have in your home, right? Is it a 10-gallon? Do you have something smaller and stock salt water in it? I mean, do you guys have a separate tank just for coral? I mean, I thought about that too. I have another tank. It's a freshwater tank, a fluval 9-gallon, and I'm debating considering changing it into almost like a coral tank or a quarantine tank. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe a coral tank once our freshwater setup is ready to be taken down. Then I might convert it to a saltwater tank. But yeah, I mean, in retrospect, like when you compare this to a freshwater hobby versus saltwater hobby and the cost, like once you're all set up, it's really not that different in terms of maintaining, right? I think what costs you more in this hobby is definitely the initial startup costs. And I do have a video on that. If you guys are interested, scroll up through the playlist. We do cover that. Yeah, all in all, once the setup is set up, I mean, most of it is not that difficult. I think it just comes down to a person's willingness to stick to a maintenance schedule. But with that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you in the next one. And if you have any comments or any suggestions, please throw them down in the comments. Thanks so much and have a great day.